Interesting conversations yesterday at Hobnob with the Lieutenant Governor, with the Speaker of the House, and some other folks, Mr. Yancey. And there were several things brought up. We have the Sheriff's Association. I'm not sure if you ladies heard that one, but there were some things that they brought up this week. Number one, that they were not given a seat at the table, and apparently said that the police departments across the state had not. Mr. Yancey countered that somewhat. But as we stand here today, what's the official word from your organization as to the governor?
We're waiting, right?
Mm-hmm.
The House and Senate have agreed. It's our understanding a draft went to the governor.
Mm-hmm.
He had.
Have you read the draft?
I've read the draft,
yeah.
Yes, and I've read what's been released.
Anything in there you like or dislike?
Well, sure. I mean, it's not perfect, I'll tell you, Paul, but out of all of the programs that I've read, I think it's one of the best ones in the country. Mm-hmm. I really do. And I'm excited to get it implemented. I know that there are, hundreds of Mississippians who have invested money in this, who are on hold, waiting on our representatives to follow what they said they were going to do. We have faith that they're going to do that. And there are thousands of patients here that are waiting on that medicine for the same reason.
Have we ever, and I don't know if, Jessica, you've seen this, have we ever defined what the number of patients are that would be a realistic number of Mississippians?
I don't think we've defined,
who would
but
legitimately get clearance for a marijuana card?
So it would be someone who would be certified for one of those 22 qualifying conditions. Mm-hmm. So PTSD, so that includes some of our veterans who could access it. Seizures, chronic pain that hasn't been treated by opiates, which is one thing that we're really excited about,
yeah.
In a state who is really dealing with the basis of the opiate crisis. This is another avenue for relief for those people. So,
have you guys looked at the list of medical conditions?
Yes.
Are you okay with those?
I think they are all relevant. I think they should all be in there.
How do they match some of the other states?
I think they're pretty in line with what other medical programs have.
I was looking at this one of the at least 50 medical conditions for the marijuana approval in Oklahoma, and it's so many of these things that some of the illnesses I've never heard about. But when you get to some of these, as far as depression is concerned, how do you decide that? I mean, how the physician's got to say, are you temporarily depressed? What are you depressed over? Isn't that a wide open thing?
It's you're going to your physician that you've always been going to. So it's not a new process. They're not newly discovering that you're experiencing or suffering depression. Yep. So they're just certifying.
Right.
Yeah.
And with any patient-doctor relationship, that conversation is going to happen, whether the medicine is a prescription drug or whether it is medical marijuana that's recommended, right? That analysis always has to take place.
Both of you are attorneys.
Yes. You always say that. Why do you feel the need to say that?
I want to let the audience know that I'm speaking to some highly intelligent, educated people.
Oh, okay.
And you have... you know a lot more than I do as far as the law is concerned. So I'm going to ask you this. When you read into the legal aspect of this, as far as the disagreement from the Sheriff's Association, saying that, wait a minute, you guys have written me out of this, law enforcement out of this thing. In other words, if there is a stop or if it comes to anything dealing with medical marijuana, we just have to call the Ag Department now and let Andy Gibson take care of it.
That's not what it says. That was explained earlier this week. You know that.
Well, and
You're
Lee
trying
Yancey
to stir
explained,
the pot.
I'm saying
pun
that
intended.
when you read that, was it as clear to you as it is to Mr. Yancey,
because
but not to the sheriffs in the state?
Well, not all the sheriffs. Okay, I know you had a couple of people on, but as three. But as the representatives explained, and as any constitutional lawyer will explain, this is a question of federalism, which is a much longer discussion.
Well, I know that. Wait a minute.
But listen,
is that clear enough in the word in legal for an attorney?
it is clear enough in the language of the statute how it is, because that is some standard language that has been copied from state to state. Remember, this is occurring in a majority of the states, 37, I think, different jurisdictions now. And so that language is used to actually protect our law enforcement, to give them guidelines when it comes to this weird situation where you have a difference in federal and state law, right? Our state law enforcement officers don't run around enforcing federal mandates or federal law. You wouldn't want them to do that, right? And so this just takes that medical marijuana program out of that realm and gives our state law enforcement some clear guidelines to follow so that they don't have to go through a legal analysis. They don't have to go through all the analysis that lawyers would have to do.
All right. I don't disagree with the federal part of this. Look, let them fight that out in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying is, as an attorney or as attorneys, is it clearly explicitly written in legal terms that there's no gray areas of where duties begin or start from the local municipality to the Department of Agriculture and whatever enforcement organization they put together?
I believe the statute is very clear.
It could not be clearer. I mean, it could be done better.
I mean, everything can be done better. The perfect is always the enemy of good, but it looks
two o'clock in the morning.
No. Let me finish,
All right,
because
go
I
ahead.
know where you're going with this, because you wanted me to give you at least a little room so you can dump whatever hypothetical is coming next.
Well, then
out of your
hypotheticals
mind.
happen every day.
But what I'm trying to tell you is the
That's why
statute
lawyers
itself
stay in
is
business.
clear. And the statute is clear. That's why it's in there. That's why it's in there with all the other states,
right.
so that we don't have to go through whatever 2 a.m. hypothetical you're about to throw at me.
Put your reputation on the line. 2 a.m. Pick a city, Ecru or Eupora or Corinth, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Break in 2 o'clock in the morning to a dispensary.
Okay.
Who do you call?
911.
Why?
Because
What?
If a medical marijuana place is broken into,
Right.
is it explicitly clear that you would call the local county or sheriff or the police department?
Because
Yes, because
according
that's
to the
what-
statute, they are allowed to enforce the laws that are not in accordance with the entire bill. Breaking into a building that you are not allowed in is not acting in accordance with the medical marijuana program.
Why do the sheriffs not read it that same way?
Well, I'm not sure about that.
I mean, the way they read it, if it has anything to do with medical marijuana, then it's out of their hands. They can't be called. They have no jurisdiction on it.
Well, the good news is that the sheriffs and the sheriff's departments have the attorney general, and they have lawyers to help them interpret the law if they have any
So
questions.
in other words, they should be waiting
But
till
this one
the
is
office
very,
is open and then
very,
call.
very clear. When you break into a business in the state of Mississippi, you call 911. And then the police come. That's just, there's no exception for dispensaries. There's no exception for pharmacies. There's no exception for if you're in a house with criminals and someone breaks in and they call 911.
Same thing as
it's a crime.
In a vehicle, if somebody has suspicion that someone in the car does not have a card, or they want to find out if all of the people have a card, if they smell marijuana, can they stop them?
Yes, and if they have a card, then they have to let them go.
All of them? What happens if it's 4 people in the car and it's only got one person with a card? Or 4 people in the car?
Well, are they acting in accordance with the program? Do they have under the allowed limit?
There are about 50 million fact questions you'd have to ask to answer that. But police are trained for this.
Should the marijuana,
in the same way that they're trained for it with DUIs, in the same way that they're trained for it with any other drug and any other
should the marijuana be in the original
package,
identified package, or
well, that depends on what the bill says.
Well, why would it have to?
Did you read it?
If the marijuana should always be in its original package, are people going to consume the package? It doesn't work like that.
I didn't say consume the package.
Well,
I'm
then
saying
how else
while
would
they're
it always
carrying
be
it
in there?
In the car, should it be in the original package? Some states do that.
Right. You don't have to do that here. Why would you?
That's just a few of the questions. We have more coming up. FDIC. Okay, back with our guest in the studio, Marcy Croft. And also Jessica Rice, and we were talking about a sundry of different things. And one of the reasons that I asked these questions, and we were talking about it off the air, is that every time I look at the last draft I have, it changes, and I think you guys understand that.
Sure.
And who knows what the final thing is going to be in here.
Well, I think the House and the Senate have announced that they've pretty much agreed. And as we've heard through the press.
I say that, but now the Lieutenant Governor told me yesterday that there were some things on there he'd like to change. So it's not
It's not final, but I think
Right.
we're
Well,
close.
nothing is ever final until it's done, right? Sure. But I mean, as we understand it, they went back and forth, and it really is, at least in the drafts that I've seen, while there could be some tweaks, there could always be some tweaks. I think it's going to be one of the best programs in the country. It's going to make lots of money for the state. It's going to bring lots of jobs, and it's going to bring lots
make
of
a lot of
relief.
money for a lot of people that are not going to be partaking in the industry at all.
That's
one way
right.
or the other.
That's right. The indirect
Well,
benefits.
I said it's not. They're not going to make money. The majority of people in the state are not going to make
You're
money
wrong.
on this.
I think they'll
You're
see the benefit.
absolutely
How am I wrong on
about
that?
that. You're 1,000% wrong about that. Because when you look at all the economic studies, okay, and you look at the indirect and direct benefits from having a medical marijuana program or an adult use program in a state, what all the economic studies will tell you is that 3 out of every $4 spent in the marijuana industry, the legal marijuana industry, cycle back into the economy of that jurisdiction. So what's happening is we're hiring hundreds of more people, thousands of more people across the industry. We're paying them well. That puts more cash
Wait a
out
minute.
there.
Is that
They're
stat
out
the
there
same
spending
thing?
the money.
Is the stat the very same for medical marijuana, the states that have medical, or the states that have recreational?
In fact, the benefit is greater on the states that have adult use, which makes sense because the volume is
use
greater
means
on
recreational?
sales. Yeah,
Of
adult
course it
use, right?
does.
So yeah, but even in states where it's just medical, that benefit exists.
Okay.
And the studies say 3 out of every $4. And if you think about it, what they're estimating the Mississippi market as being is between $500 million and $1 billion. So 3 out of every 4 of those are cycling back in the state. It's an amazing money driver.
It is
for the
because
state.
a lot of that is cycling back into things like police departments, drug rehab.
Correct.
It's
That is
cycling back
correct.
into
Yeah.
busises.
No, yeah,
it's
it's
cycling
cycling
back
back
into
in-
taxes that we pay,
education.
It's cycling
which
back-
also
wait a
pays
minute,
for
wait a minute.
education, which
cycling
pays for
back
drug
in to
rehab.
take care or to solve some of the problems created by the industry itself.
Well,
No.
not problems
No.
created, but
Okay, let's go over this part because this is the most important part of this. People equate marijuana with the rest of the drug industry, and they shouldn't, because what happens is when you make marijuana legal, when you bring it into the world where you are regulating it, you are testing it, you are taxing it, as long as you keep the taxes reasonable, the illegal market goes away.
That's not true.
It is.
That is not true.
Okay, well, let's talk about
No,
it. then.
wait a minute. Now, you cannot give me a definitive.
I'm gonna
study
back
on
it
that
up.
one.
So hold on. I'm gonna back it up. So hold on. So out in California, one of the biggest problems that they have is that their tax rates are extremely high. And that gap between what you pay in the legal market and what you would pay on the street, that tax is what keeps that illegal market going out there. The way Mississippi has done it, at least in the draft bills, our tax level sits right in this perfect median, where if you look at other states that parallel similar tax levels, you will see that the illegal drug market drops dramatically in those states, right? Because there is no economic incentive to bring those illegal drugs in because you can buy them for virtually the same amount when they're legal, tested, taxed, and regulated.
I disagree with you that a lot of people are going to be a lot richer and the state's going to be a lot better off. We're going to be healthier, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to be flushed with money as far as the general fund, and that's going to transfer down to better roads, et cetera, whatever. I'll look at some of the numbers. Colorado, between 2012 and 14, percentage of Hispanic and African American arrests for teens under 18 increased 29 to 58%, respectively, while white youths decreased by 8%.
I'm sorry. So 10 years ago in Colorado,
Well, that's just the last
they
numbers
were
I have.
arresting more teens of color than they were white teens. That's your stat that you're giving me?
No, it was already high, but it increased by that.
Well, what does that have to do with anything that we're talking about?
When crime rate in Colorado increased 11 times faster than the rest of the nation since they legalized marijuana.
That
I'm just
based
giving you the
on
numbers
what
here.
statistic?
Emergency room visits increased 35% when marijuana was introduced.
But we got to talk about
Hospitalizations,
correlation
82%.
versus
Poison
Correlation
calls.
versus causation. Yes, they did. We've been in the middle of a pandemic. I don't know if you know that, but emergency room visits have increased dramatically over the last couple of years.
Every statistic you get. Well, of course, more. Do you have your financial investment is this in something called Mockingbird?
Correct. Yes,
So you have a financial interest in this too.
I do.
Aside from the organization itself.
Yeah, well, the trade association is separate and apart, and it's nonprofit.
Right. Is it a nonprofit organization?
Yes.
But I mean,
But yes, I do, absolutely,
money.
along with hundreds of other Mississippians.
But there's hundreds of Mississippians like myself who have no financial interest in it and are gaining nothing other than wanting to make the state better and to, make sure that our patients have access to medicine that they want to take.
Who is Mockingbird Group? Who is the Mockingbird Group?
Mockingbird is going to be...
They out of Oklahoma?
We have some partners out of Oklahoma, but most of our investors are Mississippians.
Did they put money into the promotion to get this done, or to get the Initiative 65 passed?
We have put money into the state as much as we can to educate people, to get this done, to get this program here.
Are they going to be one of the ones that invest in Madison County?
Our facility is not in Madison County.
It's not in Madison. What county is it going to be in?
It's in Hinds County.
It's in Hinds County?
Yes.
And how many people will they employ, do you know?
Between 100 and 200 is what we'll employ.
In the Hinds
facility.
County area?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they can drive from wherever, but trust me, we'll be taking resumes from all over the place.
But you also have dispensaries that are going to be not only in Hinds County, but throughout the state, or how many places?
Dispensaries will be, for us specifically, I think right now you can only have like 5. So they'll be spread out, in some key cities, and we'll partner with
five
independent
in the entire
dispensaries.
State?
Yeah, I think the license cap is 5 on dispensaries. So, but we'll partner with others. We'll sell wholesale and make sure our brands are out there. That's one of the things we want to do is promote Mississippi brands, and we're also co-branding with a lot of Mississippi
capitalism
businesses.
is a wonderful thing because it's the same for everybody. Your ultimate goal is to increase your clientele.
No, my clientele. Well, my ultimate goal is to make money for my shareholders, right?
That's increasing your clientele.
And we do that by serving our clients, serving our patients, serving our customers with the best product that's tested, that's regulated, that's served to them, appropriately, and that helps relieve
with the
their
ultimate
pain.
goal moving toward recreational.
No, I don't have an ultimate goal of moving toward recreational.
Well, I would think
goal.
the corporate or the people who are stockholders in that company, Mockingbird, do have that ultimate goal is to move it over toward.
It's not something we've discussed. What we've discussed is our investment in Mississippi based on Initiative 65.
How do you? But again, you didn't define when they first came in. They didn't define that potential customer base of how many people would fit into this that may be able to legitimately have a medical marijuana card.
No, I mean you can get estimates.
Because if it's only 5%, then that's not a lot.
Right. You can get estimates from other states and see how their programs grow, and through education. Florida does this, and they kind of keep track and track the increase and predict it, and ultimately that's what will happen here.
Are you okay with the legislators not participating in this?
That is a decision they have to make among themselves. It's not, anything we advocate for or don't advocate for. I think that's a decision they make among themselves for their own ethical reasons. Yeah. So I stay out of that.
Do you think that there are going to be some lawsuits? And lawyers are going to probably make a lot of money out of this, but do you think there's going to be some lawsuits? For instance, I see this one of the first clashes is somebody's going to be knocking on your door when they say, look, I was fired, because I understand. And I've been told that in this bill, it basically says that any business can prohibit, with a drug test, prohibit their employees from having a medical marijuana card.
Well, they can't prohibit them from having a card, but they can say, we do not want an employee that is consuming marijuana, just like they can say, we don't want an employee that's consuming opioids or anything like that,
because what you do on your off time is different than what you do while you're at work. Like the Sheriff's Association said, you don't want anyone...
Let me ask you about this, because how long does marijuana stay in the system?
It depends.
Okay, give me an idea.
Person.
I mean, it depends on the person. It could be days, it could be... a longer period of time. It could be hours. It depends on how much they consume.
A physician tells me it could be days.
It could be days.
Days and days. So if you're an employer and you're doing a drug test periodically, and you do have a medical marijuana card and you're fired, you think there's going to be a lawsuit? From an employee
first of all,
actually firing somebody that's got a medical card?
The statute allows employers to make those decisions about